Welcome to the Airchecks Podcast Extra Thanksgiving episode. Gene Shepard was a great storyteller and even created the storytelling from the famous movie that came out in 1983 called A Christmas Story. We managed to find 2 more Thanksgiving episodes for you. This is his story of Thanksgiving on the Gene Shepard Show on WOR, broadcasted on November 24, 1968.
Did you see that cartoon of the 2 turkeys standing there talking? And you see another turkey being led away by a guy with an axe. And one turkey says to the other turkey, "Look at him. That's the way I hope I can go when my time comes. Walking straight like a man." Oh, terrible. What's this? Oh, for crying out loud. Would you look at my horoscope for today? That's silly. Listen to my horoscope. Listen to my horoscope for today. Seek favors with higher-ups who are in a position and mood to do so right now. Then, out to the social. And they're all off today. Somewhere Mr. Smith is ready to talk business. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving to you. You know, the most distinctive sound. I'm going to be in very bad taste. Are you ready for very bad taste? I mean, in Thanksgiving? No, I better not. Give me some cheap guitar music, will you? I thought of a terrible, terrible gag. I'm not going to say it. Have you ever heard a Thanksgiving poem, friends? Well, you are about to hear a Thanksgiving poem. All set? I wish you all that pen and ink could write, and then some more. I hope you cannot even think of half you're thankful for. I hope your table holds a wealth of prime Thanksgiving fare, and love and peace and joy and health will all be seated there. I trust your guests will all be bright, but none of them too wise, and each will bring an appetite for mince or pumpkin pies. I hope the fowls will all be fat, the cider sweet to quaff, and when you snap a wishbone, that you'll win the larger half. I like that little corny sentiment stuff. Here's one called When Father Carves the Duck. We all look on with anxious eyes when Father carves the duck, and Mother almost always sighs when Father carves the duck. Then all of us prepare to rise and hold our bibs before our eyes and be prepared for some surprise. When Father carves the duck, he braces up and grabs a fork whenever he carves a duck, and won't be allowed a soul to talk until he's carved the duck. The fork is jabbed into the sides, across the breast the knife he slides, while every careful person hides from flying chips of duck. The platter's always sure to slip when Father carves a duck, and how it makes the dishes skip. Potatoes fly amok. The squash and cabbage leap in space. We get gravy on our face, and Father mutters Hindu grace whenever he carves the duck. We then have learned to walk around the dining room and pluck from off the windowsills and walls our share of Father's duck, while Father growls and blows and jaws and swears the knife was full of flaws, and Mother laughs at him because he couldn't carve a duck. Bring that down, Herb. Hold it there. You know, I'll tell you, Thanksgiving is fantastic. You can't even explain it to anybody else. This is one of those purely, truly, total American holidays. Total. And it's even that, is getting to be totally automated. Have you seen those turkeys that are already basted? I'm not kidding you. Do you see that? You can get somebody, not many people probably had them. You can get turkeys that have got basting. And how do they ever do that? I suppose while the turkey's walking around, they inject it. Wait! I'm telling you, wait! I'm serious. Wait till they start growing turkeys that are already stuffed. I'm growing them. I can just see this turkey. One this is oyster stuffing. Now this is chestnut, and of course, it's kind of silly. And we're fascinating people. And when I was at the school, I went to for a very brief time. I went to a university where they had a big farm department, agricultural department. They had all kinds of fields of peanuts and soybeans and all that jazz going. And one of the things they were working on at that time, and now you see them, of course, in the A&P, but one of the things they were working on in the farm or the agricultural genetics section, they were working on turkeys that are nothing but, everybody wants a breast of turkey. This is a whole bit. They were working on turkeys that were nothing but gigantic breasts, with these little feet on the bottom. And no, serious, nothing else. No other part of the turkey was wanted. And so they eventually created these turkeys. If you see them in the stores now, they look like bowling balls. They're round, and they got little feet sticking out the side, and they're totally made out of carving white meat breast and all that stuff. When I saw that, I said, man is messing with nature. I mean, he is. If you know anything about real wild turkeys, you ever seen a wild turkey? Very few people have ever seen one. A genuine wild turkey. I mean, the reason that the turkey, you see, is the bird that if we celebrate Thanksgiving about, is because the turkey was the bird that the Pilgrims ran across. It was an American bird, and they had never seen a bird like. This is an American bird. It's one of the few genuine American birds, and you see them now in various places in the world. But they originated here. The turkey, the bird that we know as the turkey, and I'll never forget one time of since we think of turkeys now as butterball, and we think of them as frozen, and the turkey is one of the world's dumbest birds. Are you aware of that? Absolutely. The turkey has got a brain about the size of the head of a pin, and a real dumb bird. And turkeys they flock them. One turkey does something. If you have a flock of turkeys, one turkey may panic for some reason or other, and all the turkeys then will just go totally ape and kill like 5,000 of them in 5 minutes just from running over the cliff. Or they're worse than lemmings. Well, anybody who has ever been in the great Midwest outside of the New York area knows about turkeys. And I'll tell you two turkey stories about real turkeys, the kind of turkeys that you eat. That one of the times that one of the very few times that because I'm a turkey ape. I love turkey as a food. I think it's a great food. And I'm literally a turkey nut. I go ape over turkey. However, one time I really got bugged with turkeys. That they grow a lot of turkeys in Indiana. Turkeys are particularly suited to that climate, and you'll find turkeys there. You'll find them. A large number of turkeys come from Wisconsin, for example. You'll find turkeys in Michigan. Large numbers of turkeys in Michigan. Now, turkey is not grown the way you grow chickens. Most people think of a turkey as a kind of a big chicken. Oh no, a very different breed of cat, I'll tell you. And there's a couple of kinds of turkeys, but I remember one night, I'm in a hurry. And I don't recall where I was going, but I was in a hurry. And I'm in a car. Got it? And it was a cold, dark night. It was about this time of the year. It's Indiana. And this is a sight of turkeys you never see. And I'm driving. I say to myself, well, I'm going to make a shortcut, see, and I'm going to cut over there, and I know this road, and I'm going to go down that road, and I'll cut off a half an hour, see. So I'm driving like mad. I've really got to get to this place. And to be honest with you, it involved a girl, in case you're interested. I mean, this is the kind of mad, boy, when you get mad over a chick. I mean, that's bad mad, that's a bad one. So I'm, hurrying over to this place, and it's dark and it's cold, and I'm in my Ford, and I'm about 18 years old, and I'm really got to see this girl. I'm driving through this road when all of a sudden I see a light ahead of me. It's just right in the middle of the road. I see this light. So I start slowing up. I figure there's a car stopped there, and it's a narrow road. It's about a lane and a half. These asphalt type roads that you see in the country. And I see this light, and it's cold. It's slightly raining. It's a miserable, crummy night. And I see a light. So I slow up, and I see ahead of me a great dark mass on the road, just sort of stretching endlessly. And in the middle of this great dark mass is a man. And he's carrying a lantern. He's got a light. He's got one of these Coleman lanterns. These Coleman lights, real bright things, see? And I can see the light is casting a round shadow all around. You can see almost maybe a circle around him of light, maybe 10, 15 feet around him. And it was this insane, wild-looking, almost, it was like out of a monster movie. This apparition that all around him is this writhing, moiling crowd of turkeys that he is walking along the road with. They heard them, and he's taking them somewhere. And you could see this white light from the Coleman lamp playing on these turkey heads. Now, a turkey is not a beautiful bird from the neck up. He kind of looks bad, and he's got these red wattles hanging, and the comb and all that stuff, and his eyes. And the eyes, there's a certain maniacal, strange quality to turkey's eyes. And with the light, wait until later. With the light hitting the eyes of these turkeys, you could see them glowing. They how certain animals' eyes will glow in the dark? Well, I don't know whether you've ever looked at a turkey eye in the dark, friend. A turkey eye in the dark, I'll tell you, is enough to make you swear off anything. I mean, it was well, I pull up, you see, and here's these turkeys, and they're all sort of moving like a great mob of ants or something, and they all stay together, very close, tight-knit thing, see. And they're going, that was wild. You know how turkeys go. That's the sound of a turkey. And they're calling back and forth in the darkness. Well, I stop, see, and here's the farmer. He's just walking along with his turkeys. He must have had 7 trillion of these babies, Well, I decide what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up. He says, I got to go. Right away, I thought, holy smokes, I'll never get through here, I'm not going to go driving over the fields with the Fords, busting the axles and all. I can't get around them. The turkeys spread out on the shoulders of the road, and it was just like getting behind some herd of warthogs or something. So like, and I say, I'm going to turn around. Well, I see in my rear view mirror, I see another light. Well, I start backing up, and I hear somebody hollering. I hear this voice, hey, look out, oh! And I look out, I open the door, and I look back at me, and behind me is the beginning, like the avant-garde, of another herd of turkeys. Some other farm. These 2 guys apparently are driving them down in 2 great big herds, and the guy has just joined the crowd, and there I am. I am stuck. I am stuck between 2 herds of turkeys. Well, now, one thing about the turkey, friend, if you don't know anything about turkeys, you're going to learn something about turkeys. The turkey has a mind of his own. What there is of it is his own. And he just doesn't. If he doesn't want to move, he doesn't move. And if he wants to do anything, he'll do it. And so these turkeys are walking ahead of me, and they do very leisurely. They mess around. One would stop, and as soon as one would stop, that would give the idea to the last 428 turkeys that it's stopping time. See, then they'd all stop. And then the guy would come back and he'd holler at him in turkey talk. Woo, woo, woo. And then they'd start moving. Then they'd look. Then they start moving sideways. Then they'd move the rest back and forth. They go, these turkeys. And once in a while, one of the turkeys, you see, would a big tom turkey. You know, they had these fantastic tails occasionally. Now, they only open that tail. That big tail opens up like an enormous fan. You've seen pictures of them. Well, the only time they open that tail up is when they see, let's say, a lady-type turkey showing up, see, that looks kind of good to them, see? So they open up this tail, and then they start showing off. Are you aware that tail is all part of the big act, you know? Well, it's the equivalent of, you know, a guy gets himself a suit down at Barney's, you know, with a nipped-in waist, you know, and it's speaking of turkeys, this is WOR, friends, and this is Radio Free Broadway here, and I hope all those yams are settling down good. I'll let cranberry, be careful, you know. Have you ever had cranberry wine? Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh, I'm telling you, cranberry makes a wine that blows the top right off of your bean. Right off. Never had it, huh? Well, maybe I'll have to settle for Miller beer. Hit that thing. Yeah, Miller beer. Yeah, that'll do. You can tell I'm in a good mood tonight, can't you? Bring it to a lot of pity.
There's something special about Miller High Life.
Yeah, it's beer. That's what's special about it.
A satisfying beer. With a hearty, robust flavor.
That's not like those other beers, you know.
Always deep down good.
Get you right where you live.
Simply because Miller makes it right.
They don't mess around. They don't make any fake
On
beer.
tap, in bottles, in champagne gold cans.
Yeah, he just sucked that old bottle, man.
Miller High Life, the champagne of bottled beer.
You know why they call it High Life, don't you?
Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee.
He faked me out. He said Miller, Milwaukee. He faked me out. He set it over to music, that phony. You can't trust nobody. But let's get our little commercials here done. I hate to talk about food today. I mean, you know, stuff and all that stuff. But if you get, around Sunday, if you get a little tired of turkey leftovers, friends, and that's quite possible, I would like to suggest that you take Sunday brunch at the Great Shanghai. That's at Broadway at 103rd Street, a magnificent buffet, the most delicious Chinese food, Shanghai style, all you can eat for $2.50. By the way, speaking of Shanghai style, I want to salute the TV commercial. Have you seen that TV commercial? All right, I'll finish this one here first, and then we got to salute something here. Children under 4 feet tall are half price. So if you've got any 2.5 foot high kids, they can eat all they want for half price, $2.50. You could just have all the Chinese food, and it's from 11 o'clock in the morning all the way to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's Chinese brunch. $2.50. The Great Shanghai, and they are legendary. I'll tell you, there must be 17 generations of Columbia students have grown fat on the Great Shanghai's egg rolls. And that's Broadway at 103rd Street. And you'll get no trouble. It's the IRT comes right up next to the dishwashing machine there at the Great Shanghai. Hello, man. I'll tell you, I do the only show here that all the maintenance men at WOR dig. Have you noticed that? They keep wandering in and out. Although one of them mentioned the other day that he misses Faye Henley. But outside of that, speaking of commercials and food, I got to salute whoever came up with that. They did it beautifully. What the heck? Now, and I know this is a bad thing to do, but I can't remember what product they were selling, which I suppose kills the whole idea of the commercial. Now, it's a commercial that you see. It's just come on the last couple of weeks, and it is a magnificent recreation of the Charlie Chan movies. Have you seen that? That's right. Exactly. It's the Volkswagen people. What a fantastic commercial they've got. I mean, it's really beautifully done. And there's a scene with Charlie Chan, and not only are they carrying the whole thing. It's not camp. They don't hulk it up, like the fake Lone Ranger and the fake Sergeant Preston. By the way, that's a funny commercial too. You mean to tell me you don't take pictures of your children in the winter? Put the cuffs on them. That was beautifully done. You and your little people. Have you seen that one? But I will say, watch for the VW commercial. When when they take that, he's solving a crime. Now, if you have ever seen the Charlie Chan movies, you know that Charlie Chan always, in the end of all of his pictures, it was almost a ritual. By the way, I'm a great Charlie Chan movie fan. I love those. No, I really do. I dig those, and I like the Mr. Moto pictures. But more than ever, I like Charlie Chan because there was such style about them. And in the end of every picture, he would say this: number one, son, please lock door. In this room, we have the murderer. We have here with us today, and now you, Mrs. Prentice. Where were you at 12:03 the Wednesday night that Mr. Bullard was strangled by the man-eating Venus flytrap? And then you see the butler skulking around trying to get out of the room. You know that big scene where he tells how the crime occurred then? He says, it was very simple. As all Chinese proverbs say, man who see will see. And I see now, man has dropped 45 caliber revolver into the fun plant. The fun plant, instead of being fun plant, was cleverly replaced by Mr. Prentice to become Venus flytrap. Venus flytrap, glass 45 revolver, and plug Mr. Bullard through the heart. And you see this guy saying, oh no, you can't prove it. Oh, so we cannot prove it. We have sworn testimony of Venus flytrap, who has confessed to crime. Bum, ba-dum, bum. Oh, what a beautiful commercial. And the scene, watch for it. I won't even tell you, because in 1:59 seconds, they do a whole Charlie Chan movie, really. And not only that, they carried it all the way through. Instead of making it in color, they make it in that washed-out black and white. The kind of film that the Monogram Pictures people bought from the Walgreen drugstore, wherever it is they got their film. And it was beautifully done, really. And they even went to the extent of, how Charlie Chan was always surrounded by the disgruntled sergeant from the police force who didn't solve the mystery? And that always was looking confused when Charlie Chan, Inspector, you have failed to observe. Man who does not leave footprint is not man at all. And he says, geez, I never thought of that, Chief. Oh, man. But, this is all part of our life, so we might as well talk about our life. You want to hear what happened? Oh, you want to hear the rest of the story, huh? About the turkeys? Oh, speaking of turkeys, before we do that, don't forget, friends, Christmas fund. Start anteing up now. Christmas is not far away. Send your dimes and nickels and quarters or $4,000 bills to Box 710, WOR, Children's Christmas Fund, Times Square Station, New York, New York. And that's right that we should be on a place called Times Square. Dum-da-dum-dum. I'm sorry. It's just one of those silly nights. Did you hear what I said on the Skitch Henderson show the other day? It was one of the worst puns I've ever... have you noticed my brain is starting to get soft, Herb? I mean, for years, I hated people who made puns, and now I find myself making puns. And I said a terrible one the other day. I'm on the Skitch Henderson show, and I want to apologize to anybody who might have seen that. I'm embarrassed. I'm sitting on the Skitch Henderson show. Yeah, and Skitch, he's sitting there with the beard wagging. He's a great guy. I enjoyed him, and we're talking about a little group. There was a group on the show. Oh, tip the gaff, and we're sitting there talking away, and Henderson is saying this little group of theater people who are doing a little sketch on the show. He says, I used to do a lot of sketches like that on the old Tonight Show. And I turned to him, and I must admit, I'm apologizing. If Skitch Henderson says anyway, I'm apologizing. I turned to him, and I says, well, of course, we all know that's how you got your nickname. Well, I want to tell you, even the band got mad. One guy threw his guitar down on the floor, and, he just sulked for the rest of the afternoon. It was so bad. Sketch Henderson. Oh. Sketch looked at me, and, you could just see in his eyes, you could just see all of a sudden they clouded over, and it meant one thing: you aren't ever going to get on this show again, Jack. Well, that kind of junk. Well, nevertheless, you see, you get involved. Life is a tough scene. You struggle and you fight against. Oh, you want to hear the rest of it about the turkeys? Oh, all right. We'll continue our turkey. Well, I tell you, I want to tell you this. This chick is waiting for me in the next town, and ahead of me, here's this mob of 4,000 angry, bugged, walking around turkeys, and they loiter. I mean, there's nothing like a turkey for loitering. They just don't seem to have any purpose in life. They mess around, and one of these big turkeys, he's got the big tail all opened up like a big fan, and he spots a fantastic chick turkey on the other side, and yelling and hollering, and all the other turkeys run over there, and then they go back again, and then he lowers his fan. There I'm sitting behind, and in the rearview mirror, I see this other crowd of turkeys coming up, and the guy's yelling. He says, "Don't back up! Watch out, Mac! What do you think you're doing?" Well, I sat there, and these turkeys that were coming up behind, it must have been like the Red Sea parting. These turkeys coming up behind sort of just went all around the car. They just like a great big river. And I started to edge forward, following the other turkeys ahead of me. I'm not going to stay here all night. And before I knew what happened, I am in the middle of a gigantic turkey flock. And they're behind me, they're on my left side, they're on my right side, they're ahead of me, and we're moving down this country road at, I would say, roughly about, maybe 6 or 7 feet an hour. And all around me, and one turkey got caught under my differential in the back, and we had to get out and pull him out. They're going under the car. They're very dumb, you see. Yeah, he thought it was the sky. He's caught under my differential. They're going... I could hear him under my floorboard. Now, one thing you probably are not aware of turkeys en masse have a very, they're extremely gamey. That's all I got to say. And they're very, very gamey. And furthermore, they're very uninhibited. I mean, their personal habits are not, exactly the kind of personal habits. And so these turkeys are all around me. I'm driving forward, and it's like it's like a surrealistic nightmare, surrealistic dream. And the farmer ahead, he's waving the lantern. The guy behind me, he's got his lantern. And the entire entourage moved over the landscape like a scene out of an Ingmar Bergman movie. The turkeys. Well, the turkeys are quacking, and I'm sitting in the car quacking, and we're moving out. And it must have been like an hour and a half. We finally get to the end of this road. Well, I'm going to wait, see, which way the turkey's going. It was a T road. Now, have you ever seen, the T road where the main road, which we were on, splits off, and there's 2 roads go off in either direction, see? And I'm saying to myself now, I'm going to see which way these guys are going to turn with the turkeys. And when they go that way, I'm going to go the other way. Well, the guy in the front turns right, the guy in the left turns left. There I am stuck. 2 flocks of turkeys. One crowd is going east, the other crowd is going west. I got my choice. It's either that or drive over a pumpkin field, which was straight ahead. Well, I drove up behind this turkey guy. I was so bugged. I'm all dressed up. It's been like an hour and a half behind these crummy turkeys. I got so bugged. I did something which even to this day, I'm sorry for doing it. I came right up behind them. And all these turkeys, they're walking along, the funny look on their face, and their bills are going, and their eyeballs are spinning. They're going... I drove right up behind them, and I put my hand on the horn, and I went... Wah! Well, I'll tell you, friends, have you ever hollered fire in the middle of the Saturday night feature down at the Bijou with everybody sitting there? These turkeys blew their cork. The The air is full of turkeys. They flop their wings, and they're landing on the top of the Ford. They're on my hood, and they're all, I see this guy running around, he's got his lantern, and he's hollering. And if you've ever heard a farmer swear, friends, I'll tell you, they know languages sometimes that stevedores don't know, because you see, they're with the barnyard. They know a lot of stuff. So he's running around. These turkeys, it's like a gigantic rain of turkeys. They're landing on the car. Well, I sat there. I really blew it. I really blew it this time. And these turkeys were so bugged, they wouldn't move. They're sitting on the fenders. They're sitting on the running board. There's one turkey in the back seat crying, they're all up in the air. I sat there, holy God, these turkeys, what am I going to do? And the guy looks in, and he says, well, all right, wise guy. Now look what you done did. We're going to sit here all night till them damn turkeys decide they're going to start moving again, and you know what happens? Them turkeys, when they get scared, they just won't move. Dum-da-dum-bum. I swear, I was trying to turn around, and my elbow hit the horn. Don't give me none of that. And this turkey is just sitting there on the hood looking into the window at me. He's looking right into the windshield, see, and the big, fat, 47-pound turkey, and you can see he's lost 10 years of his age, His feathers are turning white, because of the horn. And we sit there. And the turkeys wouldn't move. They just sat. I don't think I ever told this story. This is a true story. The turkeys they just didn't move. The turkeys were so bugged that they sat, and once in a while one would look up, go, 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 go. He's scared. Go, 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 go. If you think Chicken Little was afraid of the sky falling, friends, you don't know what a turkey's like. I'll tell you, a turkey is not only afraid the sky is falling, he is totally convinced it's just hit him all the time. They're scared, When we sat there for about 15 minutes, and this farmer's walking around chewing mayo pouch and spitting and bugged, he's got his lantern going, and finally, one by one, the turkeys start walking off the hood, and they're looking around, it's looking a little scared. They start getting down on the road, and they start falling into company formation. Once again, see. Well, I don't have to tell you. We walked down that road. Me, my Ford, the scared turkeys, the farmer spitting into the ditch. We went maybe 200 or 300 yards. He comes to the farmhouse, and the turkeys all turn off left. Off they go. And I put the car in first very, very carefully, to get out of there, and I moved on down the road. The car, it smelled with a smell that to the day I got rid of that car, never fully was expunged. It's very ripe port I sold. It's got, I don't know how to say this delicately, but turkeys, when they're afraid, friends, fear acts on a turkey the way that marvelous product that tastes just like Swiss chocolate acts on a 9-year-old kid after he's eaten 2 packages of it, Well, I got my electric blue sport coat on. The car is covered with a thick coating, and just been a bad night, see, all the way down the lines. Well, I finally got to the next town. I'll never forget this girl's name. Her name was Patty. And she worked in a drugstore. And Patty was off her job about 7 o'clock. I'm showing up about 10, see. And I drive up in front of the drugstore. One of these drugstores that stay up until midnight. See, and her shift has been over, and she's sitting up there at the counter, waiting. And I walk in. I said, Patty, you won't believe this. And she looked at me with those 2 cold blue eyes. She says, that's probably true. I said, but, Patty, I got... Well, Patty, come on up to the car and we'll talk. I got an inspiration, see. Well, we left Fifield's drugstore. We went out, and in front of Fifield's drugstore was my car. My car looked like a chicken coop with wheels. I said, Patty, now I was going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I got trapped by 7,550 turkeys. And she looked at my car. The feathers are still falling off. 3 turkeys have sat on my shoulder, during the melee. She looked at me. She said, you are a slob. I said, I'm a slob. The turkeys. I didn't do it. She says, all right. Let's go. It's date time. Well, I had to wipe off the handle of the car. She got in, and she's all dressed up. She had her dress on under her uniform. And she sits in the front seat of the car there. And I'll tell you, it was just a very bad scene. The turkey in the back seat, he'd gotten excited too. And what was so fantastic? Do you know that the next day I found 3 turkey eggs on the back seat of the car? I didn't know they laid eggs, Somehow I had an idea turkeys came from the A&P, there were big eggs back there. Well, we start to go along the street, and it was just terrible. We start to go along the street, and I'm supposed to be taking her to dinner. And we pulled up in front of this place where they have the dinner, and I got out, and it was just terrible. Everything's going downhill. We walk in, and what do you think they had as the special that night? I don't even have to tell you. That night's special was turkey with stuffing. One of my friends, probably. That had ridden along with me, I picked up a hitchhiker. Well, Patty and I sat there. The car is smelling up the block. I'm sitting, and I had to, immediately in the restaurant, I went into the gentleman's room, and I'm wiping it off, and there's an attendant in there. See, there's an attendant sitting. How the attendant and the John always, he's sitting there, and he's got combs and Lucky Tiger and stuff like that, see. And I've got this stuff all over my shoulder, and he comes up, and he says, how are you, sir? I said, fine. He says, can I help you, sir? And he takes out this spot remover. He says, what is that? They ask you when they're taking a spot, what is it, see? And I says, well, he says, well, what is it? It looks like, he says, it can't be what it looks like. I said, it is. He says, chickens? I said, worse than that. He said, what do you mean, geese? I said, no, worse than that. He said, well, what is it? Guess. What is it? I said, turkey. He says, turkey? That never come out. Did you know, friends, it never comes out? That's right. Right now, today, I've got a turkey-spotted sport coat in my closet. And if turkeys ever really come back as a decorative item, I'm ready, And so would you give me a little romance? Give me, that's it. There you go, see. Ever since that time, friends. Yeah. Chicken croquettes. Yeah. Turkey meatballs. That's enough of that. Ever since that time, turkeys have not seemed to. You can get too intimate. You know what they say? Familiarity breeds contempt. And it certainly does. I don't think I'm respected by a turkey anywhere in the Midwestern states these days. But, speaking of turkeys, you want to hear another turkey story? That's a true story, that fantastic scene. I don't think I ever told that. You can see why. Some things you just don't talk about, even if they're funny. In fact, the funniest things you never mention. But one time, I will tell you, I'm not a hunter. I've never gone hunting for stuff. Ever since I was a kid, I've had trouble with friends of mine who love to go hunting. I try to pretend like I'm enthused, when some guy brings in this little bird that he shot, with $7,000 worth of shotgun. He got a little bird. Well, one time, yeah, think about it for a minute, I mean, you had 7 stories of Abercrombie and Fitch, all aimed at this one poor little bird sitting on the telephone wires, you know. But nevertheless, one of the wildest moments I ever had with turkeys, friends. And I got euchred into it. You know, you always get these invitations around Thanksgiving saying, I'm free, 21, walking around. And I was working with a guy one time. This was right after I got out of college, and I'm working I'm working in this radio station, television station in Cincinnati. And one of the executives walked in, and he says, listen, he says, you really want to do something great on Thanksgiving? And I said, yeah, you know, I'd already prepared, you know, my mind already was set for Thanksgiving dinner at the H&H, you know. And he says, well, look, he says, how about taking up an invitation? I'm going to give you an invitation. He said, you really want to do something great? I said, yeah. He said, okay. He says, tonight after work, he says, you're off tomorrow, Thanksgiving. He says, tonight after work, me and Fred, he says, we're going to meet you. He said, I'm going to bring my wife. And he says, we're going to go someplace. He says, you're going to have a Thanksgiving you never believe. So I said, okay. Now remember, this is Cincinnati. So the next night, in the car, and we drive out to the airfield. We get out there, and here's this private airplane. And 6 of us get into this plane. You got a pilot, and they fly. We fly straight south. And I keep saying to Fred, I said, Fred, where are we going? He said, you wait. Fantastic. We fly south. We're flying about 2 hours. We land in an airfield in Tennessee. And 20 minutes later, I am wearing a canvas suit. I'm in the deep woods. And I'm hunting for wild turkeys. And I can't get out of it, you know. I mean, it's such a big thing. After such a big celebration, you know, and the whole thing, you can't say to the guy, get out, you know, you've flown 7,000 miles. And now I am sitting in a bramble patch. And we're on the edge of a swamp in the deep, dark mountain fastnesses of Tennessee. This is strictly Snuffy Smith country. And I saw, you know, a lot of these big, tall, skinny natives walking around with white lightning over their shoulders. And we got a guide who's one of those guys, you know, he kept spitting into the jug and then drinking. You know, just, I'm telling you the truth, you know. Oh, that adds a little bit. So we're sitting, I'm sorry, this is life. You're learning. So we're sitting in the middle of a bramble patch. And I've got this shotgun. And they have told me that the turkeys go by here. You know, the turkeys walk by. They, like you're hunting deer, you see. They wander around. And he says, you stay right here and don't move a muscle. Be very quiet. And so everybody is spotted out there in the blinds, and we're waiting, see. Now, I had never seen a wild turkey ever in my life. And we've come 8,000 miles by air. And I'm scrunched down. It's cold. My ears are falling off. And I got this bourbon. I'm sipping a little bourbon once in a while. When all of a sudden, I was there about a half an hour. Something flicks. I see a leaf move. And sure enough, a head comes out and looks around. And I could see him outlined against the sky. He takes a step, and there he is. A wild turkey. He's beautiful. Fantastic. You have no idea how tall and thin, and they stand up high on their legs. They're in the wilds. They're brown and gold, yellow, and there's little flecks of iridescent green, and that big head, and they're totally different than those other dumb turkeys. Boy, is he sharp. He's looking around, see. Well, I got my shotgun, and I know these other guys are sitting around with shotguns. I ain't gonna see this happen. So I reach down, I'm watching that turkey, and he goes, he's calling for a friend. And I hear one of my buddies over there with his turkey call go, and his turkey looks up, and I say, oh, no, you don't, Dad. And I reach down, and I take a rock. And I said, here, buddy, get going while the going is good. And I throw that rock, and he goes, up in the air he goes. And I can see him go over and over the horizon, safe. You've never seen anything in your life until you've seen a wild turkey in full flight. Fantastic. They make butterballs look like butterballs.
That was Gene Shepard's Thanksgiving story on The Gene Shepard Show on W.O. R. Broadcasted on November 24, 1968. Here is another one of his stories called The Army Thanksgiving with the News as broadcasted on November 23, 1972.
A new touch of glamour and elegance to your home with a beautiful new rug from Gimbel's. Save 20 to 50% on room size, area size, and mansion size rugs. Find Oriental design rugs, Raya rugs, and more. Tomorrow, Gimbel's has a huge selection of broadloom on sale at savings of $2 to $4 a square yard, installed over heavy sponge rubber padding. Choose shags, textured, and twists. All broadloom purchased tomorrow will be measured, delivered, and installed in time for the holidays. Tomorrow at Gimbel's, save on hand-woven rugs from the Orient. Find Persian and Indian rugs in accent size to oversize. It's Gimbel's spectacular sale of floor coverings tomorrow at Gimbel's New York, Broadway at 33rd Street, Gimbel's East, Lexington Avenue at 86th Street, Paramus, Roosevelt Field, Westchester, Valley Stream, and Bridgeport. All Gimbel's stores open late. Sports, Roosevelt Raceway tonight, Daily Double number 1, off-track betting letter A, Reba Go Lucky, and number 8, OTB letter H, Highland Raider. Feature number 3, OTB letter C, Meadow Malkin. National Football League today, the Detroit Lions bombed the Jets 37-20, and San Francisco upset Dallas 31-10. College football, Oklahoma upset Nebraska 17-14, and in the second period tonight, it's Texas A&M 3, Texas nothing. National Hockey League, the Rangers in Buffalo 2-2 in the third period. The Boston Bruins beat California 4-2. Of course, no stock market activity today because of the Thanksgiving Day holiday. The WOR Weather Watch update for New York City and vicinity. Fair and cold tonight, lows in the upper 20s. Mostly sunny, not so cold tomorrow, highs in the mid-40s. Fair tomorrow night and Saturday. Lows tomorrow night in the mid-30s, highs on Saturday 45 to 50 degrees. Current temperature 32 degrees, humidity 58%, winds west at 6 miles an hour, barometer 30.10 inches and falling. And these highlights in the news at this hour: major development tonight in efforts to end city's restaurant workers' strike. Fourth day of Kissinger-Toe Indo-China talks, still fails to produce concrete agreement. AFL-CIO President George Meany hospitalized after being stricken ill with chest pains this afternoon. Human Resources Administrator Jules Sugarman says the city must embark on programs that will mean real jobs at real pay for welfare clients, the untrained, and the unemployed. And that's the latest from the WOR Newsroom. Lester Smith reporting over WOR New York, your station for news as it happens. I'll be back with another full 15 minutes of news at 11 o'clock. Coming up, Gene Shepard.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. One thing I like about that. Hello, wait, let me get this thing adjusted. We're getting terrible booms here. Hello, test. Hello, test. Let's see, hello. Oh, that's even worse. Hello, test. Hello, 1, 2, 3. That's better. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello. Wait a minute. There we go. Now it's really working. Hello, 1, 2. Hey, gang, we got the equipment going here. How do you like that? Bring it up there, big Charlie. Let's go. Everything cool in there, George? Well, after all, what are you going to do? I mean, everybody's got a day off except guess who? Yeah. Hey, how would you like something good to start off the Thanksgiving festivities? on a real spooky note. Do you mind Innsbruck, Austria? Little thing that just came in the news here. A 10-foot python missing for 47 days from a circus was yesterday at last found by a chambermaid in an Innsbruck hotel room. The girl had the unbelievable fright of her life. You imagine this? When she tugged at its tail, it was in a closet. She tugged at its tail, believing it was a tie forgotten by some dildock tourist who had just vacated the room. Please, George. Oh, wow. Yeah. You mind if when there's something away, the cats will play, isn't it? I'm going to play a little juice out here, unless it's, it bothers you too much. Here we go. Thank you, George. That's just getting warmed up here. It's Thanksgiving, yeah. Hey, listen, speaking of Thanksgiving, I'm going to ask a rhetorical question here to you. Did you ever spend a Thanksgiving in the armed services at all? Did you, George? You were in the Marines. Can you actually recall it? Well, I'll tell you, I had a Thanksgiving one time. You don't mind if I bother you here a little bit today and talk about the Army, do you? A lot of guys get very nervous when you mention the Army. But when one Thanksgiving, I'll never forget. It really made it in a curious way, and only a guy that's been in the Army can understand exactly what this is all about. So, if you're a sensitive type, I would suggest you go back and try your toothbrush again. Maybe it'll work this time. But one time, I'm in the Army, and they came out, and here we were, we were in this place. There was nothing but rain all the time. And it was, at this point, we were in the Ozarks. And it was just raining and raining, and it was either cold and raining, or it was hot and raining, or it was dusty and raining. I don't know how it managed it at the same time, but it did, If you could have dust flying in your face and rain hitting on top of your head all at the same time. Your bottom could be cold and your top is hot, and you could have frostbite and heat rash simultaneously. Of course, that was all part of the mystique of this thing, and there was nothing for miles around, absolutely nothing. There were 458 million guys in this one camp. And the nearest town, which was about 15 miles away, you could only get to by one bus that went every half hour. Well, of course, you had 130,000 guys. And I mean 130,000, exactly 130,000, which is roughly about 5 times the size of Trenton. That's how many guys you had in this camp. Well, I don't have to describe to you what would happen whenever they would hand out a pass, like on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning when they give out the passes. There was a line of guys that would stretch roughly from Manhattan to New Brunswick, New Jersey, for guys just waiting for that bus. Now, where did the bus take them? Well, it took them to a town that was about the size, I would say, of Times Square. That town. And what did it have in it? Well, it had 2 diners. It had the Blue Eagle Diner. It had, which was a colorful diner. It had a hotel which had about 12 rooms in it that were constantly being booked by these tall, large ladies that wore red dresses. It had one tiny USO and 6,948 beer taverns that sold nothing but watered beer at about 60 cents a glass to the GIs, who obviously could afford it because they were making some of them making well over $45 a month, you see. So it was all in all a happy situation. So this went on for like, it must have been about like 8 months. And nobody in my company had ever gotten out to any place. We were always on bivouac, way out in the boondocks. And we had been on bivouac now before Thanksgiving. Bivouac, of course, if you don't know what bivouac is the other side of going camping. Now, a lot of you out there, I wonder how many guys formed a lifelong hatred for camping because of bivouac. Oh, man. Well, it's camping. And what do? Well, you camp in this little thing, a little pup tent. It's a shelter half, 2 shelter halves hooked together. Yeah, that's right, in the rain, with the tent pegs and these little poles. And the tent is roughly about 3.5, maybe 2.5 to 3 feet high. You don't stand up in it or anything. It's just a little shelter half. It's a little tent. It's a little triangular-shaped tent. And all you can do is lie flat in it. And so if you spend about 3 or 4 months lying flat in a little triangular-shaped tent, you begin to lose a lot of the zing of camping. You know, Abercrombie and Fitch just doesn't make it. Now, one of the things that you have to do in this type of camping, you got to dig a little trench all around your tent. And the trench is supposed to drain off the water. You got it? Now, part of that is the water that is drainable. All the rest of it is soaked into your clothing. It's soaked into your blankets. It's soaked into your soul. And you lay there at night, and you can just hear the rain dripping down. I don't know. It always seems to rain on bivouac. You hear the rain coming down. You can hear the water seeping in under the bottom of the shelter half. And once in a while, you'll hear some guy with an inchoate cry. You know, just an inchoate cry of rage. You'd hear it once in a while down in the maybe 4 or 5 tents removed in the blackness. Somebody, get up! You jump up, and he jumps out of the tent. You just get stir crazy. That's exactly what happens. You literally get stir crazy. I remember one guy, one night after about 3 months in the field, in alternate rain, snow, heat, all various types of things that happen to you, one guy just went out of his bird. Flipped, yeah. Have you ever seen a guy flip? You know what he did? He did something that all of us secretly always wanted to do. He stood up in his pup tent. Just stood bolt upright. Well, look, the tent's only about 2.5 or 3 feet high. Well, he stood up, and of course the tent all popped, and all the tent pegs popped up out of him. He said, I had enough of this damn thing! And he ran down the company street, trailing his tent behind him and all the ropes and stuff like that. And, of course, here, laying in the open, was his shelter half partner. See, 2 guys occupy each one of these tents. And this guy's laying there with the rain coming down on his face, and his buddy jumped up and ran down the company street and disappeared into the weeds. Well, it happened about 4 o'clock in the morning, and everybody just laid there for a couple of seconds, didn't know what happened, you know. And all of a sudden, somebody started to break out the flashlights and stuff, and they could just see this big hole in the ground where this guy jumped up, a few tent pegs laying there, and here was this guy laying in the flashlight beams. His buddy was laying there, and he was not yet awake. He was just, what's the matter? And the rain is coming down. He figured at long last it had happened. Whatever it is, it had happened. And they had this look of fantastic fear. And we didn't find this guy. He ran off in the weeds. Now, this was in the middle of the Ozarks, where you can get lost awful quick. I'll tell you, next to the Everglades, I think you could get lost quicker in the Ozarks. This guy wandered around for about a week, out in the weeds, trailing a shelter half. He wore a shelter half like a poncho or something. And they finally caught this guy, and they brought him back to camp. And he sat in the back of a truck with a shelter half, and they were taking him into town. Actually, what they were going to do, they were going to send him off to another camp, see, where eventually he would get what was euphemistically called a Section 8. Now, a Section 8 means a Section 8. Ask your nearest ex-GI what a Section 8 is, he'll tell you. And he sat in the back of the truck laughing at us. I remember he's laughing at us, and everybody felt, well, there were 2 schools of thought. One group felt sorry for him, and the other group kept figuring out why the hell they didn't do it. Because he's going. He's in this warm truck, and they're taking him away. And we just lay there in the rain coming down. Well, you can see the scene. See, we had a field kitchen. And here's what the field. Well, for those of you who don't know what a field kitchen is, it's like a lean-to actually, and it has these ovens that they have to bury in the ground, and on top of that they have these GI cans with hot water cooking in them all the time. You're supposed to clean out your mess kits and stuff with the hot water. Yeah, you dip them in the hot water. First you dip them in the lukewarm soapy water, and you slosh it around in there. Then you dip them around in the rinse water, which is supposed to be boiling hot. And that's supposed to take all the soap off your mess kit. Well, about 3 times out of 10, it didn't. And then what would hit the company is a thing called the GIs. Now, if you think X-Lax is effective, all I got to say is you ought to try GI soap. It causes a lot of excitement. We don't go into that here. After all, it's Thanksgiving. But nevertheless, about a week before Thanksgiving, and here we are, we're deep in the heart of the Ozarks, and we've been out there now for about 7-8 months, and the rain is coming down steadily, and it's boredom is hanging so heavily on your hands that you could actually take pieces of it and knead it in your hands. Yeah, have you ever felt a piece of boredom? Well, it's kind of soft. It's like silly putty. And you could just take it in your hands. You can make snowballs out of it and throw it back and forth, And the biggest thing every day was mail call. That was the number one thing out there in bivouac. This troop carrier would come roaring up the path, and the guy would holler, mail call! And he'd jump out on the back, and he's got all the mail, and he'd start handing out mail. And, of course, there would be a brief flurry of excitement, and then there'd be a couple of moans, and guys would, go running off into the weeds. We had our daily quota of Dear John letters. Now, what is it, a Dear John letter? Well, it's a long-distance airmail letter which is given some guy in your company the mitten. And I mean the real fast mitten. And what is it, the mitten? Well, it's Dear John. Every letter starts out very formal like that. Dear Fred, I have been thinking many things over. Well, you shouldn't read any more. Or, Dear Fred, do you remember Howard, who you once met the time you picked me up at the office? Don't read any further. Just take that letter, friend. Well, some guys didn't. Some guys even went further than tearing them up. They did other things with them letters. That's right. That's very handy in that case. If it's the right kind of stationery. However, the Dear John letter. The Dear John letter. There's hardly a man alive today who hasn't gotten one form or another of the Dear John. Now, the point that he did not know at the time was that was probably the best thing that ever happened to him. But at the time, it's very difficult to know. It's like. That reminds me, the place you work at, you generally think is the worst place in the face of the Western world. It is only later when you get a job at another place that you realize, that reminds me, this is WOR New York. Hit the button, will you please?
We're the 4th grade from PS41, and we want to see the Red Baron of Lufthansa German Airlines. Is he real?
Of course he's real. Only today the Red Baron is inspecting the Lufthansa kitchens in New York. In first class, the Red Baron has a menu just like you get in a fancy restaurant. And you can pick whatever you wish from the menu. I know. I have flown with the Red Baron.
My father says Lufthansa is a German airline. And the Red Baron is on every plane to make sure everything goes just right.
Not really. On every Lufthansa flight, there are nice stewardesses to serve you your food and drinks and help you to be comfortable. And also we have man stewards, too. They all can tell you places to see and things to do when you get to Germany. After all, nobody would know Germany better than us. That's why so many people fly to Germany on Lufthansa.
Because the Red Baron tells them to.
No, because they like Lufthansa. I ought to know.
Oh, you're Mrs. Red Baron?
Why don't you just say we're good friends?
Hey, old buddy boy, does the beautiful, exciting thought of driving on snow-covered Jersey roads give you the pip? Well, you don't have to. Your local General Tire headquarters has the answer. They're standing there stalwart and solid. They'd like to put a pair of General's famous winter cleat snow tires on your car, get rid of those baldies, and this time you'll actually get out of those drifts instead of spending the month of December up to your hubcaps yelling and screaming. So, remember the premise. You go in snow, or General pays the toll. Now, if you're in the beautiful Perth Amboy area, see Carl Villani at General Tire Service, 91 New Brunswick Avenue in Hope Lawn. Now, we're going to lay down a real goodie here for you. Yes, sir. For those of you who know about the House of Chan, it's kind of silly for me to tell you about it, but the House of Chan at 7th Avenue and 52nd Street has been here longer than New York. I mean, it's an official Chinese restaurant. It's not one of these little cockamamie Chinese. This is a real Chinese restaurant. And by the way, they have a fantastic cocktail hour from 4:30. Well, it's actually 2 hours, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. That's the Chinese hour. You see, it's much longer than ours. The House of Chan has a new cocktail bar which serves free hot Chinese hors d'oeuvres, pronounced in Chinese, or su mi, or su mai, depending on whether you're from the South Side or not. This is the House of Chan. Fantastic Chinese food, 7 days a week, 7th Avenue and 52nd Street. Hiya, Kong Sai. Hey, you know, it finally happened. I was in a place here a couple of days ago in Nashville. You know, I remember, it was 1962. I was playing in a nightclub down in the Village. And, it was a place called Number 1 Sheridan. Number 1 Sheridan Square down in the Village. And just about this time of the year, as a matter of fact. And one of the things that I did that night, when I was playing it was a 3-week engagement down there. One of the things that I did in my bit was to do a folk singer of the future. Yeah, I said, you know, there's going to be folk singers of the future. I says, let's face it all. What is a folk song? A folk song is generally a functional song that comes out of the people. You know, it sings about their hopes and their fears, right? Well, you know, that's what a folk song usually is. And it comes out of the people. And a folk song generally is not really recognized at the time when it is a folk song by the intellectuals of the day. It's a fact. You know, some guy's sitting on a back porch plunking his banjo, singing about my mama's got the big blues. Well, you know, the intellectuals of the day don't dig it. It's the intellectuals that come later that dig that, right? And he's sitting there on the back porch, you know, chewing his tobacco. He says, Mama's got the blues. Yeah, Mama's got the big blues. Mama's got the blues today. And why is he singing that? Well, he's bugging her. See, she's in the kitchen now, and she keeps saying, will you shut up? It's none of your business how I feel. And he goes, Mama's got the blues today. Yeah, Mama's got them big old blues. I done spent my pay down at Charlie's place, and Mama's got the blues today. And he's singing a folk, you know, functional folk song, right? Well, my bit was about a folk singer of the future. And I in fact, even recorded this. I have it on tape someplace. And the idea was that I came out with a guitar. I can play about 5 chords on the guitar. And that's about the extent of the average folk singer's repertoire on the guitar anyway, see. So I came out and I strummed the G minor chord, and the lights went down. You know how they always present a folk singer. See, and I looked very heroic. And I had this shirt ripped open at the collar. And I looked out at the audience and says, folks, I'm here tonight to sing some folk songs of the past, some wonderful songs that meant so much to them people of the past and gone days. Back in the mid-20th century, for example, over 100 years ago, people sang songs like this, and they were songs of the people. I'd like to sing one of them for you right now, folks. And I go plung on the guitar, and I start out plung. Oh, Chiquita banana, is the banana for you? Chiquita banana, is the banana for you? Keep them Chiquita bananas in the refrigerator. Chiquita banana is the one for you. I said, back in those days, they had a fruit called a banana. For those of you who don't know what these things are about, it was a fruit that came from the tropical countries, and many people would eat bananas back in those days, over 150 years ago, when they actually ate food. And back in those early days before civilization. And this song is one of the great songs of that period. Here's another one that some of you possibly may have in your collection. Plung. I'd hit another G minor chord. Plung. And I'd sing, Pepsi-Cola hits the spot. Pepsi-Cola hits the spot. 12 full ounces for a nickel, too. Pepsi-Cola is the drink for you. Now, folks, for those of you who don't know what Pepsi-Cola is, it was a drink of them very early days back in the 20th century. Well, now, you laugh, all right? You're sitting in there laughing because we all know about Pepsi-Cola, right? And we all know about Chiquita Banana. And I did this in 1962. Well, what do you think happened to me the other night? All right, I'll tell you. I walk into... See, you know, it really scares you. I'm beginning to believe I'm clairvoyant or something, because the other night I walk into this bar in Nashville, Tennessee, and I sit down, the guy comes over, he says, what do you have? I'm talking Nashville. He said, what do you have? I said, well, make it Jack Daniels. He said, bourbon. You want the green or the black label? And I said, you got both here? He said, you're in Tennessee. I said, well, make it green label. He said, how do you take it? I said, well, I think I'll have it on the rocks. A little twist of lemon. It's the only way to drink it, son. He walks away to get it. Well, all of a sudden the lights go on, and on the stage comes this folk singer. You know, we're down in Nashville. You know, well, it's not really a folk. C&W singer, see? And the lights get purple, and this guy steps out there, and he's got this 10-gallon hat. He says, I'd like to sing some folk songs of our time. Like to sing a song that all you know? Yeah. He said, I'd like to sing a song that all you know. He said, and here it comes at you. Chrysler Plymouth coming through. And I thought to myself, my God almighty, it's come to pass. So you know, you get a little scared when you predict things. But I'm going to tell you this right now, that the commercial has become the folk song of our time. It's the only song most people know. And by the way, speaking of commercials... Hey, friend, I hate to bring bad news. You know, I so often do this. Does the thought of driving on snow-covered roads in the Bronx give you the chills? It certainly does, Lindsay. I would suggest that you get ready this year early by picking up a set of General's famous winter cleat snow tires. They're beautiful. I mean, they'll even take you through the Bronx in the middle of the snow. In fact, General says this, you go in snow... or Big General pays the toll. So, you know, that's more than Lindsay did for you. In Oakhurst, Dick Flanagan at Flanagan Tire and Automotive Center, 1639 Route 35. That's Dick Flanagan. You asked for him. Well, you're going to be delighted to hear that the Mike Douglas show is in Miami. With Jackie Gleason as co-host. Don't miss the comedy and the nostalgia tomorrow at 4:30 on Channel 2 in New York. Mike Douglas. Friends, we have another spot. Hit the button there, please, if you will.
And now, the continuing adventures of Shoetown's own Super Shoe. We return to the exciting case of the gang that stole Santa.
Gosh, Super Shoe, we've flown everywhere looking for Santa Claus. Italy, France, South America. We've hardly had time to look for the first quality, famous name, great value shoes for the entire family for Lionel's Shoetown stores. Gee, Super Shoe, I hope Lionel won't be angry.
Santa Claus missing, and only Shoetown's Super Shoe can find him, while he's circling the globe looking for famous brand shoes to sell at incredibly low Shoetown prices.
Let's see, men. Super Shoe wants you to make Shoetown your headquarters for shoe shopping and saving, and you know how Super Shoe is. You get smart, he's liable to hit you in the face with one of the big fat clodhoppers. So this week, he's offering you an exceptional buy on great-looking winter footwear. First quality boots done in dark brown suede with thick pile lining for warmth and rough textured soles for traction when you really got to get out of the neighborhood fast. They're valued to $15, but Shoetown's got them for only $8.88. So you better hurry to Shoetown. This sale ends Saturday. Shoetown. Well, here's our little Gramercy Park message of tonight. Let's see what they say. Gramercy Park close of 64 West 23rd Street in New York says, and we quote, Mister, just because you're a big-sized guy doesn't mean you can't save money on your clothes. Gramercy Park doesn't care if you're big and tall, short and fat, or somewhere in between. What's a couple of inches or a couple of yards of cloth, more or less? If you've been paying more because hard-to-fit guys always seem to pay more, here's what to do. Go up to the third floor of the factory building at 64 West 23rd Street. Go through the big iron gate and take a look at their suits around there. They're famous. That's Gramercy Park Clothes. They're open on Saturday to 6. They're open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday even. Gramercy Park Clothes, 64 West 23rd Street. Third floor, 64 West 23rd Street. Third floor. Bum. Well, here's another one of your favorite little goodies here. I'm sure that you're all waiting out there. You can start your tape recorders if you want to save this as a souvenir of this age, the times rugged that we're passing through. It's a General Tire spot. And if you're contemplating not only your navel, but you're contemplating the idea of getting a set of snow tires this year. Well, you do it the General way, because they have their great slogan. You go in snow or General pays the tow. And their tires are called winter cleat tires. And they're 4-rib snow tires, and they work, which is not something that every snow tire can say. They'll really get you out of the snow. Now, let's see. You can see Bob McCormick at State Line Tire, 80 Westport Avenue in Norwalk. Now, no, I'm not going to do the Christmas fund. It's Thanksgiving. We'll let the Christmas fund go for Christmas. You know, yeah, I was going to tell you that story. I kind of hate to think about it. You know, it's a bad. In a way, it was a kind of a great afternoon. Some things only become good in retrospect. A lot of things, many things, when you're living through them, are really, what a drag, man. But about 10 days before Thanksgiving, our Sergeant Kowalski, and his name really was Kowalski, Sergeant Kowalski, this little short guy, he looked like a fire plug with feet, He always wore sunglasses, no matter what. There's a certain kind of guy that wears sunglasses all the time. These green Air Corps types. And he wore these sunglasses when it was raining, when it was snowing, at night, all the time. And he had these pressed fatigues. Boy, he was sharp all the time. And one afternoon, in the middle of a soft, drifting, icy, rotten, stinking rain, I was standing around in my raincoat trying to look like I was busy. The one thing you learn when you're in the Army is always keep looking like you got something to do. This is a very invaluable rule you learn. Because the minute you stand there and your jaw slacks open, some guy with 2 stripes usually, is going to see and say, hey, you over there, come on, what are you doing? Come on over here. Come on over, you and that other guy over there. Hey, you over there. The guy that's trying to run away from behind the trucks into the weeds. Hey, come here. All right, you guys. I got a detail for you two. Oh, man. After that, you don't fake. You're working. And that's the one thing you try to avoid all the time. So I'm standing there trying to look busy, and it ain't easy trying to look busy, just sort of making a movement all the time, carrying stuff, moving around. The rain is coming down. The whistle starts to blow. Well, that means assemble. So everybody comes running over into the mud and stands there with the rain drifting down. And directly behind us was the field kitchen. And you can smell it. The field kitchen is, that's got these coke fires burning away, and you could smell it. There was a kind of a drifting, smoky smell all the time. And also the smell of vaguely fermenting dishwater is what always hangs around the smell of a field kitchen. And we're standing in the rain there. Kowalski's walking back and forth with this clipboard. And he's got he's always got a big important announcement. He's, all right, you guys, at ease. All right, orders just come down from Army headquarters that as of the day before Thanksgiving, we've been given the orders that we can allow 1/3 of the men on this particular command can have a 5-day pass for Thanksgiving. Now, we don't want any question of favoritism to arise. What a joke. We don't want any question of favoritism to arise. We're going to do this fair and square. The exec and the CEO are going to draw names out of a hat in the orderly tent. And in just 2 hours, the names will be posted on the bulletin board as to those guys who can get passes 1 day before Thanksgiving. You are not allowed to travel any further than 800 miles from this command. And if any of you guys live further than 800 miles and you want to make a pass, forget it. You're not going to get a pass. It's going to be a restricted 800-mile pass. However, it will all be done by drawing straws, drawing names out of a hat. Any questions? No questions. We shifted around in the mud and waited. Well, I don't know whether any of you know that feeling of waiting for 2 hours to find out whether you're going to be sprung or not. It just goes by like molasses flowing down an iceberg, and it ain't fast. Well, we're sitting around. I'm sitting squat in my tent with Goldberg. Emil Goldberg is sitting there. He was my tent mate all the time, so Goldberg is sitting there. We had been just given tent mates simply by numbers. And I'm sitting there with Goldberg, and Goldberg always smoked a pipe. Now, I don't know what kind of tobacco it was that Goldberg smoked, but it produced a curious purple smoke. And it was very thick. it would hang in the top of the tent, and every time you would raise your head above 6 inches off your bedroll, your head would be in this thick purple fog. It was something like 6 nights in a Turkish bordello or something. That kind of very perfumey type tobacco. So we're both sitting in this tent, very nervous, and Goldberg is puffing away on his pipe, and he had this big calabash. And we're both sitting in there amid this purple haze, saying nothing. The rain is drifting down, and finally Goldberg says, he said, "No, we're not going to get it. Just not. I never won nothing in my life." I said, "Will you shut up, Goldberg? One thing I've learned, Goldberg, ever since I was a kid, that if you talk about something, it ain't going to happen. Now shut up. Pretend like you don't want to pass." So that's ridiculous. Pretend like I don't want to pass. I got mold growing between my toes from this rain and this mud. I got to get out. I'm going to go out of my mind. And he had this pipe, and it would make this sucking sound. Ever since that time, every time I hear a guy sucking on a pipe, and it makes that slurping sound, like somebody working a plumber's helper, that sound, I always think of, I could smell that dishwater, and I smell that purple smoke, and I get that itchy feeling. And by the way, another thing about being on bivouac, you don't take a shower. Sometimes you don't take a shower for weeks on end, and you start to itch all over, and your clothes, my fatigues would dry on me, and then they would get wet again, and they would dry on me, and you develop curious kinds of rashes and little pimples and all kinds of stuff. So we're both, I'm just telling you the truth of Army life. So we're sitting in the tent, just waiting, and all around us there are other guys sitting in tents. The next tent is Zinsmeister and Gasser. Edwards is down there. We're just waiting. You could smell that fermenting dishwater. Now, for at least 4 or 5 months, we've been on field rations. Now, field rations include such delicacies as powdered eggs, right? Powdered eggs. Now, what is a powdered egg like? Well, a powdered egg, have you ever tasted library paste? Well, a powdered egg is like warm, diluted paste with salt and pepper on it. It does not taste anything like an egg, at least the way they fixed them in my company. There's nothing like an egg. It's kind of a whitish, kind of a strange gruel-like, and they would fry them. They would make them into what they call scrambled eggs, and every morning we're getting this curious paste every morning for breakfast. You get that paste, and you'd also get this rubber toast, which they would make by putting a big rack over the top of the oven in the field kitchen. They did the best they could, but it wasn't what you wanted to have. And these guys ate it too, so nobody was getting, it was just everybody had the same thing. And you'd get this scalding hot coffee every morning. And let me point out that up to the point that I got out on that field kitchen, I was strictly a milk type. I drank milk every day. I never drank coffee. And I didn't drink coffee for at least 2 weeks until I came into that field situation out on bivouac. And one night, after spending an all-night laying wire in the cold, at 4 o'clock in the morning, we got back into the field kitchen area, and we staggered up to the kitchen there. We've been out all night. I'll never forget this night. The cook, he's got some stuff for us to eat. See, they made some cold bologna sandwiches, which is all they could make at night because we weren't supposed to start fires. And he had heated some water. And he says, "You guys want?" Which one of you guys want? And by the way, they were giving us powdered milk at this point, which they would mix with water. So he says, "Any of you guys want water?" He says, "You want any milk?" He said, "I got these sandwiches, you guys, so dig into the sandwiches." He's doing the best he can, for sure. Yeah, I always felt sorry for the cooks. They work night and day, so don't think I'm putting down cooks, man. Those guys really, really put out. So the guy's up there at 3 or 4 in the morning. He's giving us sandwiches, and he says, "Any guy?" He says, "Just holler it out. You want milk? You want coffee?" So we had 2 big 32-gallon cans. One's got powdered milk in it, which I was drinking up to that point, and the other's got this scalding hot coffee. Something said to me, if I don't have this coffee, I'm going to die. Now, I didn't drink coffee. I didn't like coffee. But I needed something hot. I mean, really. And so he just takes this big ladle, and he just ladles in a great big ladle full of this scalding hot coffee into my canteen cup, at the end of the handle. And I sat down next to a truck in the dark, and it was raining. And I got this hot coffee. And it was the first time in my life that I understood what coffee was about. I smelled it, and it was fantastic. It just smelled like, it's like the smell that must come out of heaven on a Sunday morning. I just smelled that coffee. And it was scalding hot, and I had this big bologna sandwich in my other hand that was ice cold because it was so cold there. And a cold bologna sandwich on unbuttered bread is not it's not the grooviest thing in the world. Well, I took a sip of that coffee. It was hot, scalding hot. But suddenly, music played in my soul. It came from way down deep in my gut someplace. Now, this coffee was black without sugar. And I just took a big sip of it, and my God almighty, did that taste good. I took a bite of that salami, that big bologna sandwich. I started to chew it, and then I took another big sip of that hot coffee. It was one of the best things I ever tasted in my life. After being out in that cold, laying that wire. Well, I drank that whole canteen cup full of coffee, and I went back and I got another one. I figured that must be a fluke. And I got another one, and that tasted even better. And ever since that time, you can't say anything bad about coffee around me. I'll tell you. 2 nights later, and by the way, at this point, I am a non-drinking, non-coffee drinking everything. I was as clean as driven snow. 2 nights later, I'm laying in the weeds. The rain is coming down. And I'm laying next to another guy, a guy named Dye, Edward L. Dye. PFC Edward L. Dye from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And Dye is laying beside me, and we are attempting to lay a telephone wire, under cover of darkness. It ain't easy. And we've got this reel of wire between us. We're crawling forward, and all of a sudden, Dye says to me, "Hey, Shep." I said, "What do you want, Dye?" He says, "Hey, Shep, you want something out of my canteen?" I said, "What do you got?" I had my canteen filled with lukewarm cocoa, which is made out of powder. He says, "Well, here, take a sip of this." And he hands me the canteen in the dark. And I go, "Oh." Unbelievable. All of a sudden, it went right down to my feet. I was warm all over. It was the first time I ever tasted bourbon. Where he got it, I don't know, and he wouldn't say. But he had a canteen full of bourbon. And I want to tell you this, it made laying that wire awful nice that night, and I had never even known what this stuff did. I always thought it made you drink. It didn't do that. It just made me feel warm. Well, so you know the scene. Me and Goldberg are squatting in the tent there. We've been out on field now for 4, 5, 6 months. Seemed like 100 years. Everything around us smelled of mold. That's another great thing. When you overcoat everything, your fatigues are moldy because of the rain and the wet. You're never dry. The whistle blew again. And man, we fell out. We stood at attention as best we could in the mud. And Kowalski started to read the names of the guys that were leaving. And you could hear, you could hear this little cheer. You'd hear a muffled cheer. All around you, muffled cheers. He finished reading the list. 1/3 of the guys were in 7th heaven. The other 2/3 just wandered back and sat down in a tent. Guess who sat down in a tent together? Me and Goldberg. Well, Thanksgiving Day, which came on a cold, wet, drippy morning, they gave us the day off. We didn't have to do anything. We'd lay in our tents. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the cook goes from tent to tent. He says, "Hey, you guys, I've got something for you. Come on down to the kitchen." And I wake up out of a half doze amid the rain. He says, bring your mess kit. And he goes from tent to tent, and guys started to get up, and we started to wander down through the rain, through this gloppy, wet, squishy little company street that we had made. and I could smell some. My God, I couldn't believe it. We all lined up. And he, someplace, had gotten 4 cases of fresh eggs. He got himself about 15 pounds of sliced smoked bacon. Where he got it, it was a surprise. We had none of that. He got himself a couple of cases of milk with cream on it, on the top, real milk. And he got himself about 20 pounds of smoked, fresh country sausages. You know those little short ones? And we lined up that morning, and we had eggs any way we wanted them. Fried, I had some fried. I came back for some scrambled. I came back later, and I tried them all ways. You know, I said, because he said, any way you want them. I said, how about poached? He says, poached eggs coming up right now. He said, you wait over by the truck, and I'll call them out when they're ready. And for 2 hours, we ate fresh eggs. It was Thanksgiving. We ate fried bacon, smoked, country fried bacon. We ate country fried smoked sausages. We had strawberry jam, fresh strawberry jam. We had toast, fresh toast. And by the way, I don't know where he got it. He had rye, he had white, he had whole wheat, he had any kind of toast you wanted. And for 2.5 hours, we just scoffed it down. Kowalski walked back. He didn't go on past either, see? That made it okay. Kowalski walked back and forth up there. He says, you guys eat up, man. He says, eat up all you want. He says, and after you're through, you go back and you can sleep all you want today. Nobody ain't going to bother you. And I remember crawling back in my tent, see, and I brought back a couple of hard-boiled eggs. Make sure I had a couple there in case I woke up hungry. Goldberg is laying there next to me, wrapped up in his blanket. He's got himself an omelet between 2 slices of bread, thickly spread with strawberry jam and liberally laved over with maybe 15, 20 pounds of smoked country sausage. He's laying back there. I said, you know, Goldberg? He says, what? So I'm kind of glad I didn't get a pass. He says, so am I. I said, just think of all that trouble riding that bus. I mean, listen to all that flapping and then them peas, showing all them passes. He says, yep. I said, sounded good, Goldberg. I think I'm going to go back and get myself some more eggs. We just kind of rested all afternoon in the rain. It was a groovy Thanksgiving. This is WOR New York. Stay tuned for Big Lester Smith and the news.
News and detail on the hour from the WOR newsroom. The best holiday dinner may come tomorrow for patrons of strike-bound restaurants in New York City. Tonight, the president of Striking Local 89 Hotel and Restaurant Employees Union said that cooks and other kitchen help will return to work tomorrow. Emil Bonatti said the return-to-work decision was based on his locals getting a satisfactory settlement with the restaurant league. Another factor, Local 1 dining room employees had earlier announced that it will put a possible contract settlement before that union's membership at a meeting tomorrow morning. Both the local and the league representatives have recommended that the pact be approved. Bonatti's local had gone on strike last Saturday. For some 2 weeks now, the various restaurants have been forced to close when Local 1's waiters, busboys, bartenders, and other workers went on strike, and then the kitchen workers followed. Negotiations are scheduled for tomorrow in the Teamster strike against some metropolitan area bakeries. Working conditions and a wage and benefit increase are to be discussed. Newark, New Jersey's Mayor Kenneth Gibson announced today that he has accepted the resignation of the head of a federally funded anti-crime program rather than allow Washington to cut off the program's $20 million for the city. Earl Phillips is out because he said he was given an ultimatum by the Federal Law Enforcement Assistance Administration and the State Law Enforcement Planning Agency. According to Phillips, both agencies did not want his 5-year crime-reducing plan to turn into a preventive and social program. Instead, they wanted what Phillips called a police-type plan. A Unitarian minister has been charged with embezzling $112,000 from the Family Council Service of Middlesex County, New Jersey. Now the problem is to apprehend 35-year-old Reverend William Rogers Fortner of Somerset. Middlesex County Prosecutor John Kothow said that the minister had purchased a one-way ticket to Portugal and left the United States on Tuesday. Extradition proceedings are underway. A county grand jury indictment says that the Reverend Mr. Fortner misapplied and misused the counseling service funds between December 1971.
Well, thank you for listening to the extra special Thanksgiving of Airchecks.